Face to face, hand to hand, film to film.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Film to Film. My name is Iñaki Linier. I'm here with my good friend, James Sturgeon. It's December, and that means we have to get into the spirit. James, are you feeling the spirit?
The
spirit of Christmas?
Yes.
Are we feeling jolly?
Yeah. We're just talking about the Supreme Court. All the more reason to feel jolly.
And then, okay, let's not bring up what we were talking about before recording.
Okay. Well, I see you in a red shirt. It doesn't look like a red sweater, but it's got the look of the holidays.
Exactly. I mean, we're in the holiday period. Folks are celebrating Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa soon. I think Hanukkah's already happening, which means that soon a jolly red guy is going to be coming to town, right?
Yeah. Especially in Finland.
Especially in Finland, yeah, where they claim the jolly red guy comes from.
The original,
the OG. So yeah, we watched out of this weird intro. We watched Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale, film from 2010. This is directed by Jalmari Helander. I'm assuming I'm probably butchering that name because I do not know how to pronounce Finnish. But yeah, James, what do you think of the film?
I mostly liked it, I would say. I think there's some stuff that I liked and some stuff that worked less well. But I really like the setting of stuff in the snow and stuff like that. So it's like if you film that stuff and like you film that setting well, then I'm going to tend to give you the benefit of the doubt. And I think this film has enough stuff that I liked about the production and stuff that made it work. Although I think some things it probably could have done better, but I'm sure we're going to get into that a little later on.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, is this your first time watching it?
It is, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I saw it, I don't know when it came out, but I did watch it in 2010, actually during Christmas. Maybe not Christmas Day, but around like in December, around the holidays. And I don't know where I heard about this film, but I was like, oh, it's out there, it looks funny. And I invited my mom and my stepdad, who were in town, to watch it with me. And they were like, what is this movie? It's like, it's a Christmas movie, let's watch it. And then they came out, they were like, oh, this was fucked. So yeah,
they weren't into selling off Santa's elves for significant profit.
Well, I mean, did you expect you were going to see so many naked old men running around?
No. In fact, in my notes, I have literally, would not want to be an extra for this movie.
Also, there were, in many moments, it looks like they were filming in location.
Yeah. No, I think they were. I mean, what do you think their Craigslist ad was? It was like, looking for 55-plus bearded males willing to appear totally nude. We'll pay well.
I know. Yeah, it's this is I thought, I picked this because I think this definitely puts us in the holiday spirit. It is a Christmas movie. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
No, it definitely is.
But this is not the same take that you have as other like Christmas horrors. I mean, I guess this is a horror. Like most other Christmas horrors are like Krampus or just an evil Santa killing people.
Right. Which is actually what I expected this film to be.
I know.
I thought it was going to be a little bit more of that. But this film is just a little bit more offbeat and a little more weird than those.
You would say a little bit? Yeah, no, I chose this movie because it's fucking weird, which is what I love. And again, I had not seen it since 2010, and I just rewatched it actually this morning, and I was like, hey, this is as funny and weird as I remembered. It's a little bit childish. We might get into that, but I don't know. So, I mean, just for the folks who are not planning to watch it, I'll give the short sum up version. Researchers dig into the depths of Korvatunturi Mountains to dig up Santa Claus. Soon thereafter, children begin to disappear. Now it's up to Pietari and his dad to resolve this Christmas mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. That sums it up pretty well.
I pulled this one. Actually, neither IMDb or Wikipedia had a good one, so I kind of mix and matched.
Okay.
To get this little snippet. So credits to me this time.
Okay. Yeah. And one thing, I'm on the Wikipedia page of this one too. It's like, well, yeah, I'll bring this up later on, but apparently this is a bit of a family affair, this film.
That all the actors actually know each other and the filmmaker and stuff?
Like the father-son in this film are actually father-son,
Uh-huh.
and the director is the uncle.
Oh, I actually did not read that part. But it makes sense. So, I mean, a little bit of background for this film is so this is, as I said before, is directed by Helander, and I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. And before this film, in 2003, he actually had did a short called Rare Export Incorporated, and in 2005, then he did also the official Rare Export Incorporated safety instructions. These are like 10 minutes long. I found out about this, like, I want to say 4 hours ago.
Uh-huh.
And I watched them, like, I did watch them, but I felt like it was not enough time to send it to you. But I mean, they sort of spoiled the ending for this film,
Okay.
in the sense that it's like, it focuses on the whole business of exporting Santa Clauses. I mean, the first one is about like, oh, these hunters, like, and it's funny because like it's the same actors, it's all the same actors, even in the 2005 one, Pietari makes his appearance as a much younger child.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
it's interesting. That's interesting because I feel like a lot of this film, especially visually, is quite well done. So it's interesting to see that he had a couple other iterations of this project earlier on that probably helped him to develop it. Because visually, I think, I mean, like, I don't know how much was location and how much was CG, but it looks really good. I really dug the snow and the setting and a lot of the nighttime scenes. I thought it was like lit and seemed very professionally done.
Yeah.
Considering that like so many of these people are people that the director knew, it could feel a lot more like sort of a gritty home movie and stuff like that. And it feels like a professionally done production though.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is not an amateur film at all. I mean, it's definitely low budget. I think it's like, I think its budget is extremely low, but very high for Finland, very low for, I think.
Yeah, 1.8 million euro, which is probably pretty high for Finland, as you said, but definitely low for like America.
Well, yeah, I mean, this director in 2014 directed another film called Big Game. It's an action film, and it's the most expensive film ever made in Finland.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It includes Samuel L. Jackson in it. So, I have not seen it, but I 100% will watch that soon.
That sounds, yeah. I mean, Samuel L. Jackson as the president. You didn't mention that.
I know.
Yeah.
So I mean,
So basically, this guy likes to cast one American actor in each of his films.
wait, was there an American actor in this one? In Rare
What
Export?
wasn't the guy that was like the rich guy developing or like that wanted to blow into it American? Like they're speaking English at the beginning.
Yeah, but was he American? I always thought it was. I always thought it was like just an American.
I don't know.
Like I mean, the character's supposed to be American, but I always thought he was just like I don't know. Now I'm looking into it.
Yeah, me too.
So there was one guy
it's
named.
not obvious.
There's one guy named Jonathan Hutchins.
Hutchings, yeah, that's the right actor. I don't know if he's American or what, but the character I think was supposed to be American. So I mean, that's more what I meant.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's funny because they're little elements that you kind of see in other films a lot too. Like the beginning for me reminds me a lot of. I mean, not similar, but similar in concept in that you'll have this like American research station, and you got like this American boss, and they're all talking in English, and whatever the fuck they're doing is gonna fuck everything up for the rest of the town, and that's very similar to the host.
The host.
Yeah.
Yep.
Think little things like that that made me think of, that made me think of the host. The end, especially with sort of there are little elements of different films, right? Like at some moments it feels like they're inspired by Spielberg's style of filming.
Yeah.
And at other moments, especially because it's in Finland, I mean, you do sometimes think of The Thing in how desolate everything is.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's always dark and
is
snowy.
A much bleaker film, but yeah, for sure. It has a bit of that setting for sure that you get there. I don't know. I mean, snowy settings are really well suited for sort of like, I don't know, darker fairy tale type stuff. I really like a lot of westerns set in the snow too. Just creates a really unique atmosphere too. I'm sure it's a pain in the ass to film, but it looks great.
I mean, I think so. Again, this is a Finnish movie. Most of the actors are Finnish, which makes me think they're all used to this hellhole.
Well, this is. I did look up the location, and it's like, as you might expect, it's supposed to be like right against the Russia border. It's in the northernmost province of Finland, so it's seems like I don't know. It's a cold place to be.
I mean,
especially during Christmas.
The fact that they think so the Korva Tunturi Mountains are, like a lot of people believe that that's where, like in Finland, a lot of folks say that that's where Santa Claus is from. Although they have a different name, the Yulupuki, which means the goat jewel or something like that. And I mean, in fact, this is where one thing I love about this movie is that it plays up to its probably what a view of their original mythology of what Santa Claus or the Julupuki, the Julupuki was, which is a goat man. Even though in this film we never get to see him.
No, we don't. Didn't quite have the budget for that.
No. Would you have preferred actually being able to see him?
Maybe. I don't know that I didn't necessarily needed to. But if my complaint about this film would probably be more like I would have liked just a little more hook to get into this film, whether that's seeing him at the end and having some sort of showdown with him or something else. So I don't know. I'm not sure that I have a strong feeling on that, but I do like the way that they showed him. It's just sort of like thawing out and like this massive thing. I thought that was quite effective, and I would have been down for to actually see him, but I don't know if they had the budget for that.
Yeah, I remember when I first saw this film, that was sort of my letdown. Is They talked about Santa Claus over and over again, and you're like, oh, I just want to see him. And then you get the elf, and you're like, oh, okay, this is Santa Claus, and then you realize, oh no, these are elves.
Yeah.
And then you get to see this massive monster frozen with the horns, and you're like, oh, will he break loose? And it never happens.
Yeah. If it's an American movie, it's like 99.9% likely that he would break loose at some point, and that would be your finale.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, like, and that's the thing. Like, rewatching this, you can see the CGI that they did use. I don't think they used a lot of CGI, but in the moments that they did use it was very noticeable. Which will only tell you that their Santa Claus will look like shit.
Yeah, it's true. So that's why I kind of have some reservations on whether they should have or not. It would have been very difficult, especially like as big as they seem to make him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Finnish film. I don't know how wealthy Finland is. I'm assuming somewhat wealthy.
Yeah, but I mean, their film industry, I'm sure, is like not nearly as wealthy as like Hollywood or something like that. And it's like The Host was a very big budget movie in Korea just a few years before this. And that monster, the CG effects, I really like the movie The Host, but parts of the CG don't hold up quite so well.
Exactly.
Just honestly speaking.
Yeah, and that monster, you barely see it. And I mean, you see it in some moments, but you don't see it that much. And it's always like very quick cuts. And I feel like in this case, having a giant Santa Claus would be a lot harder to avoid.
I agree. Yeah. They would have had to like probably make it a lot smaller, and I don't know. I mean, I can forgive the decision not to show that, because you're right. If they did and they had the budget they're working with, it probably would have looked like shit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a lot better to have a bunch of old naked men throwing pickaxe at people.
Much cheaper.
Much cheaper, yeah. All the props to the makeup of all the elves.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I think the makeup, the setting, that stuff worked fantastic. Like, they do a good job of making those, I don't know, the old guys, yeah, great work.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, so I guess I'll go sort of almost by sort of like the by act. I'll structure this a little bit like that this time.
Okay.
So I mean, in Act 1 you get to learn about the characters, and I think this movie actually, structurally speaking, is probably one of the, for as weird as this film is, this is actually one of the more easily discernible act structured film. Like Act 1, you get to know the characters. Act 2, I feel like, breaks in with the finding of the first elf. And then Act 3 is meeting with the rich guy and the fight with the other elves and figuring out what to do there. Which is kind of interesting because most of the films we watch, I don't think they're as easily as structured as this.
No. You're right. This film does break very easily into sort of the react structure, just very segmented. We're very three distinct beginning, middle, end.
Yeah, and however, though, it flows extremely well from one to the other. So it's like, I feel like, I neither you or I have ever gone to film school, so I don't know how they teach film. But if, the three-act structure was something taught in film, It's cool. Then I feel like it would be like, oh, they got an A on this because they have the very clear 3 acts, but also they have very good transitions to.
Yeah. Whereas like the last film we did, Phenomena, that film's all over the place and doesn't feel like it. That's like an example of like, I don't know what the fuck's going on half the time in that film. So yes, this one, it's much clearer, and I do like the fact that they didn't try to overextend the film to be extra long. I think it's the right runtime. It's short. It's 82 minutes, and I think that works perfectly fine.
Yeah. And then, so like now going to the more of the first moment, getting to know the characters. I think this film does a really good job at that too. The main character, Pietari, he's, as a child actor, he actually does a really good job. He is actually like, I don't know. I usually out of like films with kids, either they're too smug, too not their age, and this kid like seems like no, this kid is like very innocent, like his age, acting his age, like through his imagination what's happening, and unfortunately his imagination was correct. And I think I feel like the film does a good job at that. It does a good job at introducing his relationship with his dad, which is a rough fucking relationship. What do you think of that? Like, for a silly movie as this, like, I feel like they did a really good job sort of like creating this. There's a tough backstory that we don't know about.
Yeah, no, I do think they do a good job. In general, I'm not like someone that's like a huge fan of films about kids and
I know.
as the protagonist, as I've said before. But I do think that the acting on this was good, and the backstory and like just the implied missing mom who passed away at some point. At least that's what we assume, and just sort of like the tough relationship the kid has with his dad. And the characterizations, like this has good character development for 82 minutes. I thought all that stuff worked well. I think the actors, so the father and son in this one, I thought they both were pretty okay.
Yeah, no, I think so
right.
too. I think, and even though this is, maybe I'm wrong. Like I know you're not a huge fan of main character children being main character, but this movie does a good job at having the dad being a sort of main character too. There are moments where you sort of you understand what the kid is going through because he's correct on everything that's happening. Yeah. But you also see yourself in the dad's position, which is, my son is fucking weird, and we live in this extremely manly world. And my kid is not one of those. And I think of that, especially in the moment where the son goes to his dad and he's just like, "Dad, you need to beat me." And dad's like, "Why? What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah. There's a lot of moments like that. This film feels very well thought out. Clearly this is like a project that had been simmering for Helander's for years for him. So I'm not surprised that, or at least it makes sense that he would put a lot of thought into stuff like that.
Yeah. The other thing I liked about this movie was all the comedy in it. I don't know about you. I know that comedy is a hit or miss for you.
I would not say I found this film particularly funny. Just honestly speaking, maybe I would have felt differently if I saw it with you or just with a more general audience.
Okay.
I didn't find it unfunny either. But I don't know. I think I'm a pretty tough audience when it comes to some humor and stuff like that. Especially with kids and things. It was. Well, it was probably a miss for me. But I don't count that against the film.
I feel like most of the humor actually is with the adults. The kids scene, actually, I don't know if there's much humor in the kids. But I'm just thinking, so for a movie that actually is considered a horror in a way, This doesn't have much gore. So the bloodiest scene we see is when you find out all the dead deers or reindeers, right?
Mm-hmm.
On which I'm not sure, but I think their business was to corral reindeers and then sell them for Christmas. So it was just funny how like they find all these dead reindeers and they're like, the dad counts all of them and he's like, oh, this is how many they died, and the other guy was like, oh, that's that's $80,000 plus tax.
The 22% VAT.
Yeah, which is tax.
Yeah, that was. I laughed at that. That was probably the only thing I really laughed at.
But they have
I did think that was funny.
Exactly.
And then they bring that back later on.
Yeah, when they're counting all the elves, and it's like, that's like $1 million plus a 20% VAT. And you're like, yeah, that's what I meant by the humor. So you got those moments. I mean, you got the moment where they're like, the dad traps one of the elves with this wolf trap. And brings up calls up his friend who comes in with wearing a Santa outfit on the
that was kind of funny.
And
I guess fair enough. I guess I did find a couple of those moments funny. I just didn't think of this film as like being terribly funny other than those moments.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say this is a comedy, but I would say like the adult moments were always the funny ones, especially with that, like, deciding, oh shit, you run over this guy? Oh, he's American. So they gotta get like the other guy who can speak English, even though the elf doesn't speak even though it's a fucking elf and not an American. There's lots of like those little comedic moments. All the fucking English translations were hilarious.
Yeah, and you could sort of tell that like the guy that could speak English had sort of learned it from like cop shows or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just like, get on the floor now.
Exactly. And when they're like negotiating, it's like, we want business.
More money.
And he's just like, we want 80,000 euros plus VAT. And the other guy's like, what? No, $1 million. Like, we we got real Santa Claus.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by the comedy. I feel like most of the concept is like extremely comedic.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I don't know. I laughed a lot when they were torturing the elf, trying to get information out of him with terrible English. I mean, there are moments where they're both comedic and horror, right? Like, the elf is terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, he bites them and stuff, yeah. But to be honest, I kind of wish the film had leaned a little more into the horror elements of the film and shown a bit more, just to, kind of add to the stakes of it. It's like, I don't know. I guess this kind of goes with like what I'm talking about as far as like having a stronger hook into the audiences as far as this film goes. Like at one point, all of the kids of the village, other than Pietri, get abducted. Like, just show that a bit more, or like show like some of the people getting brutally killed by the elves or something like that. Like, I could have really gone for something like that, just to like sort of I don't know, raise the stakes of it. A lot of that stuff happens off screen, and they do tend to downplay it in the film. So I would have probably preferred that they amp that up as far as like the horror elements go.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking for just myself here, but like I thought that stuff would have been effective as far as like, just bringing you a little bit more engrossed into the picture and raising the stakes. Because I really didn't believe at any point that the kid was in danger.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah. And I could have gone for that. Like, I like it when a film has stakes and like you like actually feel legitimate danger and stuff like that for the kid. And I thought this film could have definitely leaned a little bit more into that direction.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
That's probably my main complaint of film. I thought it did everything it tried to do pretty well, though.
I agree with that. And also, I mean, in a way, this doesn't feel... I mean, this film feels like a lot of different genres together. You could say... I mean, it's a horror in a way, but it's also, I would say, an adventure film. I mean, I listened to a podcast earlier talking about this. I forget which one, but they were comparing it to Jurassic Park. In that, you know, like they uncovered something new. You got the mad scientist, which is the the American businessman, and a bunch of people are dying. Most of them off screen, which is what happened with Jurassic Park. If you think about it, most of the deaths are off screen. Like you don't see Samuel Jackson dying.
Yeah, but you do have people like screaming while they're getting killed, like in the toilet or stuff like that.
Right.
Which I do feel like, and you know, I don't know that I'm the hugest fan of Jurassic Park either. But yeah, it's I hear your point.
Yeah, no. It's funny that I did not know you were not a fan of Jurassic Park. I love that movie.
I don't dislike Jurassic Park, but I don't know. I guess we're exposing me at the points where maybe I differ from mainstream opinions on what I like and don't. I'm like, more blood and guts, more gore.
No, I agree. I guess the question would be, so like, who were the characters doing the killing? This naked old man. So if you were to actually, and I feel like this is what the directors probably have to think about. If you were to put the death, you need to show, you're gonna end up showing all the elves to their fullest. And their fullest literally mean naked old men killing people. Now right now this film is rated R, probably not because of its gore, but because it has naked old man.
It's probably true, actually.
So now imagine naked old men stabbing a bunch of people, cutting their heads off or whatever. Now that would be a very expensive movie. Not expensive, sorry,
yeah.
Not expensive. A very that would be very hard to even get through with the rated R.
So okay, I'm gonna make this point. This is gonna be a weird point, but hopefully it lands. So it's like, you know, the stereotype is like when you go to prison and you just gotta mess up the first person you run into. I kind of wish that this film, the first person that they mess up, which would have been like one of those miners, they just went balls out, decapitation, I don't know, something with him where you're like, oh fuck. And then the rest of the film, they could show it the exact same way.
Yeah.
But the whole time in your head, you're like, oh shit, this is how it could happen because this is like, these people are getting fucked up. But instead, the miners all were like, you don't see it. And you're like, and then like at one point, the head miner guy is like, oh, and you don't even see anything. And I just could have gone for more just like people getting their shit ruined or something like that. Or just like have more of the kids that are being abducted being like really terrified or something like that. So just more horror. I'm not saying we got to go like full 28 Days Later with like these old naked guys like running and super visceral or frenetic. But I don't know. Give me 15% of that.
Yeah, no. Or yeah, perhaps like even a bag with the kids and like the elf beating it with one of its like sticks or whatever. Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, something like that. And you hear some screaming and human suffering. It's like, yeah, I go for that. Just a human suffering sprinkles.
You know? A little bit. I'm a little bit curious. Perhaps that was in. Perhaps there is a cut with that, and the producer was like, "This will not survive the Finnish censors or the UK censors." I know the UK has pretty strong censorships.
Well, then bring on the Helander cut, man.
I know. Actually, shit. Maybe there's a Helander cut where you actually see the elves killing people. Because I agree with you. You actually do not see any physical confrontation. The only kill you see on the only character you see dying on camera is the American businessman.
Mm-hmm.
And even that, it's like it's so quick because the pickaxe hits his head and he just falls, and you're like, oh,
Yeah, I just feel like it could have been much more effective if it just picked up the brutality a bit. But I don't know.
no, I agree with you, and and I mean perhaps that's its weakest point, but I'm also curious if that's to be able to get past American censors, Finnish censors, UK censors. Because I mean,
Right. Yeah, maybe. I mean, usually the American censors are much kinder towards violence than they are towards nudity.
right. I mean, this is rated R strictly because of nudity.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
But like as a counterexample, it's like the movie you were talking about earlier, The Host. The Host does a really good job of like that first scene, just 10 minutes in, setting the stakes, where you just have like a bunch of random people getting their shit ruined. And like for the rest of the film, you actually don't have like a ton. Like the body count isn't that high in that film, but it just sets the stakes immediately, and you know people are dying. And this film, you kind of maybe it's just because of like Krampus and stuff like that, you expect there to be more of a body count in this film, and I feel like maybe my expectation of that led this film to let me down just a little bit in terms of that.
well, I mean, there's not that many people in this film in general, though. So like it's
Fair.
And that's the other part. Given its price value and the good quality it has, maybe they just didn't have that many actors. I mean, this movie does not have a single female character.
Yep, that's absolutely true. Does not pass the Bechdel, not even close.
No, and you know, like, and it is implied that there are a lot of minors, but I think in total you see 5, and like you know, whenever they show like minors being attacked, it's like the camera is showing nothing, and you just see a helmet flying off with blood or something like that. So I mean, you know, maybe they didn't even have the extras for that because you know they paid too much for the naked old man to you know be roaming around and shit.
Well, you know, the Italians in the 70s knew best. Just get some mannequins and toss them off cliffs.
Right, but we were talking about how nice it was not to see shit that would keep you out of the that would kick you out of the movie.
Okay.
Which it does in the third act at the end. Anyways, yeah. But but yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying, and maybe it was done for budgetary censor reasons. You know, who knows?
Yeah, or maybe you know, maybe like you said, maybe the director is just a little bit more of a softie, sort of like a Spielberg, as you sort of alluded to earlier with Jurassic Park or something like that. Like he's just a little more sentimental, and my own, and maybe both of us lean a little bit more towards the crass, crude, and brutal side of it. I know I personally do. So
yeah, because I mean Spielberg definitely kills people off camera more than in camera.
Yeah, and I mean like I don't think your Spielberg comparison was too far off, just in like terms of tone of the film too, and like sentimentality and like focusing on like a boy character and stuff like that. It does feel very I don't know if it's Spielberg influenced or Spielberg adjacent, but it's sort of in that same Venn diagram of influences.
Yeah, I mean it even has sort of these an adventure take in a way.
Yeah, even the score feels a little John Williams-ish.
Yeah. Although I mean, also it's a Christmas movie, and I think the movie likes to remind you that once in a while. You know, you have characters saying "Merry Christmas," you know, shit like that. So I mean, I'm not sure. So another thing I do like about this movie now is the mythos behind it. Again, I don't know anything about Finnish culture and whether or not they do believe in Santa Claus, or whether or not, like, you know, I looked up Wikipedia on the Julu Puki, And from what it sounds like, it's, you know, it was like a goat man who would take presents from you, and that for some reason turned into the Coca-Cola Santa Claus. So,
I like that, by the way, the way they call it Coca-Cola Santa
I
Claus.
know.
I thought that was good.
But so I'm not sure if that mythos of, you know, this, I mean, the goatman part they got correct, but the whole like flogging children, cooking them and all that, like the naughty children, I don't know if that's the case, but I fucking love the illustrations of that book.
Yeah, yeah. It's probably the most horror things in the film, just because like it shies away from it. Other than that,
Yeah, I mean, part of you wants to be like, oh, will I get to see that? Because I mean, there's some fucking horrific scene, like images.
I thought we were gonna get to see it.
Yeah, and that's the part where I kind of agree. It's a little bit of a letdown. But I don't know. I do like the idea that mythology. Again, maybe it is the Finnish mythology, maybe, and that the Sami people froze Santa Claus in a lake and buried him under a mountain. And I don't. I mean, maybe that part is not part of the Finnish mythology. I also did like learning that they're like indigenous people called the Sami people.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I looked it up and I was like, yeah, it's like, yeah, indigenous people.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, they're a real thing. Yeah, I don't know. They look like white Native Americans.
Okay.
The non-PC moment for me. I guess the other thing I liked about this movie was how, okay, so this is all men. It's a men's world where all men have guns, including the children.
Yeah, but it makes sense here. It makes sense for a community like this to have a lot of guns. So
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta fend off wolves, because I mean, that giant trap was for wolves, and you're like, shit. If you need those traps, that's kind of fucked.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd say probably the number one thing I like about this film is just like the setting and stuff like that, of like that danger, like the fact that they need these big traps, and like the guns, and like I don't know, and like there's like these holes in the fences and stuff, and they're right up there against like the border with Russia. I thought all that stuff was quite well done.
Yeah, no, me too. I also like how all the main characters are. I mean, there are better words to say this. I was gonna say for lack of better words, but no, there are better words to say this. But I will say it anyways. These are a bunch of hillbillies. Like they're like, oh fuck, all the reindeers are dead. All right, we're gonna break into this research station and demand them to pay us the $80,000 plus VAT.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, there's parts of this film like that stuff, especially with the adults, that almost feel a bit Coen Brothers-ish, and maybe that's partly because the Coen Brothers did a film set in the snow too with Fargo. But yeah, it does remind me.
But it makes you wonder, like maybe like that's kind of the lifestyle on like those like really frozen, secluded places,
Right, right.
like small town folks who were just like very rough. And not too thoughtful.
Yeah.
I mean, all the way to break into a private place. Yeah, actually, out of the comedic things, I mean, this film does have little details like the all the stolen heaters and ovens, and you're like, why the fuck do you need that? I mean, I guess one thing I like about this movie is like the build up to the ending. And it's like you don't know what Santa Claus is going to look like. At first, you think it's the elf. And there's a bunch of weird shit, and everything actually falls into place. I mean, that's one of the good structures, and one of those is all the stolen like appliances.
Yeah, all the like burlap sacks they took, and you see all like those potatoes laid out. I mean, like that stuff is all just really well thought out.
Yeah, including the joke of the dead wife's hair dryer.
Yeah, yeah,
Where because I mean to the point where he's like, oh yeah, my wife's hair dryer is missing, and the sheriff is like, why would anyone need that? And he's like, oh, it's the latest technology from Russia. Like, of course it's good. And then later, even the elves discarded it because they were not using it to even the elves were like, why do we need this? Fuck this. I don't know. There's a lot of hidden gems in this that I kind of liked. But I don't know. What's your favorite like scene or moment?
I don't know. I liked it when the elves were at their scariest. Like in the dark, and like you see a bunch of them overwhelmed. So maybe around the time that the third act is just starting. And I don't know if I liked a particular scene in there so much as I like the atmosphere that you get. Like the Santa reveal is pretty satisfying. Just like you see this big massive thing, and you're like, oh shit. And then it's like sort of surrounded with like all the elves, and like the American gets his shit ruined. So just sort of that period of the film where it's like starting to get dark out, and I think the snow looks particularly great when it's dark out too. I think that section of the film is probably my favorite part of the movie.
I think for me is the folks dealing with the elves that they trapped, the elf that they trapped. I think from believing that the elf was dead. I mean, you had a couple of jump scares there.
Right. That's probably the tensest part of the film, and the part where you think that the film could be much darker than it ends up being. And I agree. That scene was also well done. And that's probably the part where we can observe the makeup and the way that they're presenting these elves at its best. And then they sort of hang him up too, and just sort of swaying, and he just has that look on his face.
And it's so interesting how like the elf, like his eyes sparkle whenever he's looking at the kid, and that was definitely a little effect given there. I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. That's probably the tensest scene, especially when they were beating him. Because he's just like crawling there, and the guy's kind of hitting him, trying to like blackmail him at the same time in his terrible English.
Yeah.
But the elf looks scary as hell, and you think, oh, he might attack at any moment.
Right, and because of the buildup, because of that moment too, you think it's actually Santa. You don't think it's an elf. But because of the buildup and because of the books that Peter is reading, you think that it could go to a very dark place.
Oh yeah.
And it does not go there. But it feels like that's one moment that does actually feel pretty tense.
I know. But is that tensity? I guess you could say remind me a little bit of the Korean films in the sense that you don't see this in many American films where you have a very tense moment with lots of comedy at the same time happening. Because I mean, all the things that they were saying during that tense moment were ridiculous. From the moment they see him awake, and it's like, oh, the guy bit off my ear. And it's fucking weird. I don't think he's human. And then the dude who speaks English is like, he's a foreigner. That's his explanation for that entire thing. He's a foreigner.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Korea because I feel like they do this sort of like rural bumpkin, dark thriller humor really well too. And that combination that you just don't see that much here. And you do get that in a lot of Korean film. Yeah. And it's one of the many things I like about that.
Yeah, I mean, I have this, I actually wrote this, one of the quotes, which is like the guy hitting him. It's like, wake up, grandpa. We need money. And I was not expecting. He's like, for the longest time I thought he was gonna say like, "Wake up, try to figure him out," but instead it's like the first thing he says, like, "Wake up, we need money," and then the next point is proceeds to beat him. The guy is just like fucking beating him as trying to get money from this monster.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought to me that was my favorite. But I do agree that my second highlight is the ambush, and with all the dark, how dark it is. I do. You're right. I think you made a good point that this movie has a potential to be a lot better, or a lot more enjoyable for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it depends how you approach it. Because if you look at this, if you just like wandered into Seattle International Film Festival or DC International Film Festival, if that's a thing, and you saw this film, then you would have less of this expectations. But I think you, and I know definitely myself, approached this and expected more like horror.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that may have just influenced how I was thinking about the film. I mean, I don't feel like the film, I mean, in my defense too, in the first 45 minutes of the film, there's a lot of buildup and much of it very well done towards building towards this sort of like very, very dark place. Like the opening of this film is very horror classic, sort of like the opening of The Host and stuff like that. It's like humankind is going to mess with this, and it's like this stupid American, and you just expect stuff to go to a darker place. So I think maybe my head was a little bit messed up, just expectation wise, because of like sort of the combination of all those things.
Yeah, maybe. On the other hand, I mean, if we talk about darkness, I mean, the implications of this film are very dark. Especially if you go into the epilogue, like the post ending. What were your thoughts about, like, basically, all right, so they kill Santa Claus. They take out his horns, just like elephant poachers do with fucking elephant tusks. And then the next scene is them basically figuring out how they can enslave these elves to ship them out, as the film calls it. Right, exports.
Yeah, this is the part where the film gets a little weird, especially, and it's probably one of like the quirkiest parts of the film. I kind of like it, but I'm also like not, I'm like 50% unsure what to make of it, just because it's so strange and kind of messed up. So it's funny to me that this film goes in this direction at this point in the film rather than like in the more conventional horror stuff. But yeah, it's kind of funny. Yeah, kind of dark.
Yeah, I think that this is the darkest part, and it's the happy ending of it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the crazy part is this is the part that the short films were all about.
That makes sense. I mean, it's the freaking title of it, so I'm not surprised. But yeah, it does have that sort of like South Korean like tonal shift to it, where you're just like, this is a little dark, a little weird, but I'm pretty sure this is also supposed to be funny.
Yeah, it's like dark, weird, but I dig it.
That's a good tagline.
Yeah. You should watch the shorts because one of them is they show you the training in more in depth. The first short, they show you the training more in depth, and it's fucked. So so you can imagine this happening with all of them. Yeah. Besides that, I mean, like, I don't know. I think this is one of those movies where, in my opinion, yes, it has those like shortcomings, that subjectively, we complain, But I also think overall this is a very well made movie. Like, technically speaking, there is not much to complain. I mean, you know, perhaps they jumped the shark with the child holding off on that helicopter as it's swinging around and corralling the elves. But the movie built up to its weirdness so much that at that point you're like, sure, why not?
Yeah, yeah. I thought that part worked reasonably well.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, you know, this is, it's I think it's, and I guess that's like perhaps another comparison with Spielberg. This is a well-made movie. Like Spielberg films. I mean, say what you will about them. Well, I haven't seen their most recent one. I haven't seen what's it called? The one that's all in CGI, basically.
Yeah, Ready Player One. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. But I mean, like, all right, Spielberg in the 90s. You know, like, whether it was a good...
At his peak.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it was a good movie, whether you liked the movie or not, it was a very well done movie. And this is what else, and this is the same thing you can say about this one. I mean, I see no negatives outside of what I subjectively may dislike. Like, oh, could it be better? Sure, but is it a very well crafted film? Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like what they put in the movie. I have no complaints of. I just wanted a little bit more of something in there. It's like it's just like missing one or two ingredients that I would really like.
Mm-hmm. But
I mean, I'll be clear. I do think it's a good movie. Like, yeah, and I feel like a lot of the movies that I've been more negative on film to film has kind of been the opposite. Like, I felt like they tried to do too much.
Exactly. Yeah. No. This is like they do They know how much they can do, and they do enough. I mean, fuck it. Even so, in one of the podcasts, they complain about the CG with the helicopter and the child swinging, and I was like, you know what? When I saw this in theaters, and this is in theaters, you know, the highest quality, I was like, this is fine.
I thought it was fine too. I actually didn't have an issue with it. I thought most of the helicopter shots were done pretty darn well for a obviously like non-American film.
Yeah.
Like that's working with a smaller budget. Like I was impressed that they actually got a helicopter and spent some of the budget on that. So I don't have a complaint with that at all.
I wouldn't be surprised that that entire helicopter was fake. I wouldn't be surprised that the entire flying scene was probably CGI, but they did it smart enough that was extreme in a very dark moment at night, so you barely can see anything, and you know, like, and that's how you do it. I mean, the film plays its cliches well. I mean, when going into it, like it's a well-made movie, it even plays the cliches, right? The kid being the person who sacrificed himself and all that. But it does it in a way that it's like, you know, this is almost earned. This is basically earned. It earned its cliches.
Yeah, I agree. You're emotionally invested. Yeah. Like the acting is strong enough, and the relationships, they have characterized them enough that I think it works. I'm curious, in the podcast that you listened to, did they like the film?
They did. They
Okay.
did. They just talked about a couple of things. I mean, one of them, they loved the movie and they didn't say anything negative, and then the other one, but they didn't talk about the plot. And then the other one that they did talk about the plot, I think it's, you know, I'm pretty sure. Oh wait, no, I'm running the recording. I'm pretty sure it was the podcast was about whether or not it was about cult classics. I forget the name of the podcast, but I mean that was their main theme. Basically, their theme is to figure out whether or not this would become a cult classic. It's too soon, 2010. It's not that long ago. I mean, it's 10 years ago, but a cult classic usually takes longer.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting. I mean, it's also interesting, sort of just to look at this. I'm on the Wikipedia page here, and like to look at it as sort of like this Nordic horror from this period, like with Let the Right One In, obviously, probably the most famous one in from the Nordic countries at the time, but also Dead Snow, which I don't know if you've seen, but I feel like that film is definitely destined to become a cult classic.
That's the one with the Nazis,
it's about,
right?
Yep, the Nazi zombies.
Yeah.
Which is like, if you can sum up a film just like that, it's gonna be destined for something. I actually don't particularly like Dead Snow, but
No, it was
the fact
kinda
that you
boring.
can just call it. Yeah, I thought that had some CG that wasn't that great, and I don't think it's a bad film, but I don't think I do like this film a little bit more. I don't know if this film would be a cult classic either. It's sort of an interesting conversation. I feel like something that has more of a hook, like Dead Snow, probably is more likely to, even if I do prefer this film.
I mean, speaking of cult classics, I mean, like there was that film that really wanted to be a cult classic back in that time, during that time too, like 2010, 2012. And I was like Nazis from that like had survived and had like gone to the moon, and they were invading back. U.S. president was like a person like Sarah Palin or something like that. I mean, it wasn't Sarah Palin, but it was someone like
Inspired
by her. And I remember watching it, and it was trying too hard. And with Dead Snow, it felt the same way. It was just like it was trying, like it wasn't that good of a movie. It was trying too hard to just stick to that hook, and I think that's when like I give this film more credit.
This film stays within its means, almost to a detriment.
In your opinion, yeah, sure, but yeah, it stays within its means, perhaps to its detriment. But also, I feel like quality was higher in the priority than being, showy.
Right.
With that said, I mean, yeah, if we're doing all these comparisons, I put Let the Right One In higher than this.
Same. I think that's easily the best movie of those three.
Yeah. That's also like probably the most like horror.
Yeah.
And interesting at the same time.
Yeah, and it's like if you read like Best Vampire List or something like that, like Let the Right One In is already getting included. So I think that film is definitely going to be part of the canon, probably for years to come.
Yeah, but Let the Right One In, I mean, for me, a cult classic should be a film that did not have any glory when it came out, and then it became big. I feel like Let the Right One In was a critic's darling when it came out.
Right. One film that we did discuss that you could make a case. I think it has a stronger case than Let the Right One In, but I do think is very borderline. That you brought on actually to the show is Thirst, because like compared to a lot of Park Chan-wook's films, it's comparatively less seen than stuff like Old Boy and the Vengeance trilogy. Of course, it was quite a big film in Korea, but I mean, I think the quality is there, and like it was a little unsung at the time internationally. So a film like that, I could see being considered somewhat of a cult film.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Anyways, back to this film. So, what do you rate it?
I'm gonna give it a solid 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I gave it a 7.5.
Okay, so we're pretty close on this.
Yeah, I think it's a very enjoyable movie. Could it be better? Perhaps. But yeah. I mean, I am very glad to watch it again. This, I think, is a film that I wouldn't mind showing someone every Christmas.
I mean, I do think that this film is very likable.
Yeah.
For everything, and a lot of that is due to the relationship of the two leads and just the really cool setting. I mean, like, I don't think it lands everything, but I don't think it needs to be perfectly worth watching. So
yeah. And I mean, like, little details like how the elves are addicted to ginger cookies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, actually, I forgot to mention this. Like when I was talking about like how this is a good, well-made movie, is what. So, this is I don't know if it's kind of a cliche that critics say, but it's a cliche I agree with. A good horror movie has very clear rules, and there's no movie I've seen with clearer rules than this one. They dictate those rules at the beginning.
Yeah.
So.
True.
Anyways, who won?
Gotta give it to Jalmari Helander. It sounds like it was his pet project, and I would say success.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll be boring, and I'll say Jalmari Helander did a good job, and I think he won this. Will you recommend this film to your parents?
To my parents, no. I think it's too weird. Just a little too weird for a normal people. I think in particular the ending will leave people scratching their head. But I would recommend this. I think this is like a good example of like what a film that would do well amongst the festival sort. So like my friends that are into film, that like a little bit more offbeat, quirky, international type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good.
Do you know about this movie before I asked you to watch it?
I don't recall, so I'm not sure, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, I came up with the idea to watch this because like we've been doing thematic stuff, and I was like, I have not seen the Krampus films.
Nor have I actually.
Like I saw one horror Santa Claus film. And it was fine, but I was like, I heard that the Krampus is kind of like the same, sort of like Santa Claus is killing. It's more of a slasher with comedy, and I was like, this is fucking weird. Rare exports. I want to do this.
Yeah, well, I mean that's kind of the film to film way. It's like there's the obvious choice, and we do the just slightly weirder choice.
Yeah. Anyways, I think we've been talking longer than the film, so.
Yeah, close to it.
So, hey, it's Christmas season. Be jolly. Watch this film. And, let's see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Peace.
Ciao.